Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we have another shop talk video, and today's topic is going to be if it's not broken, why fix it? And this relates to engineers engineering new items for things that are still in automotive that are already practical enough that don't need any upgrading. And I'm going to show you guys a great example of that today. Now before we go ahead and begin, if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button down below. Definitely smash that like button because it helps the channel out. With that said, let's go ahead and get started on today's topic. So recently I had a Jeep Cherokee in here. It got a thermostat and I had to remove the hose going to the thermostat to be able to service it. Now, I've never ran into too many issues with the way manufacturers and companies fasten a radiator hose to an assembly item like a thermostat or radiator. But this Jeep, even though it was, I believe, a 2019, had a complete different design that I've seen this used before, never on a cooling system, mainly on like air boxes for some European vehicles. And I never expected this clamp to be used on this particular system. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab it and show you. Now, the clamp that was used to hold the hose on the thermostat was this concoction. And this is a way over-engineered clamp. You guys can see here, it kind of looks like those old school clamps that European vehicles use that once you put it on, you crimp it and it stays on there. But no, you can actually disconnect this. As you can see here, it has a little hook and a little area where the hook goes into, and then they squeeze this together to make it tight. Now, this is overkill because for many years, we've had these clamps, worm gear clamps, and they work. There's nothing wrong with them. Even spring-loaded clamps, the ones where you gotta use pliers to take them off. Now, I don't have any spring-loaded clamps to show you, but nothing's wrong with this method or the spring gear clamp. I don't see the need for manufacturers to use this style. Now, what I'm gonna do so you guys get a clear view of this, I'm gonna take you on the bench and show you how the design of this is just really stupid and why I think it's a bad design. And why it just screws with technicians. So let me get you guys on the bench and let's go over a few things. So we are at the bench, and this is the clamp that I'm referring to for this video, and then this is the standard worm gear clamp. Now the way these work is pretty simple. You put it on the hose. You have an 8mm bolt head on there, and you just tighten it, and you basically move this clamp further in on itself, and that's how it tightens. So basically as you turn that, it basically locks that in and makes it tighter. Now, even though these are a design that's been around for a long time, you got to be careful using these, especially on plastic components, because if you over tighten them, you can crack them, and over time it can present an issue. But when we have a design like this, now this to me is a middle finger to the technician, because the way this works is when this was first installed, this loop was not there, and these two ends kind of go together. Now this is going to be very difficult for me to do here. Let me see if I could get it. So just like that, that's how it would normally sit in there. So when this clamp was brand new at some point in time, this was more elongated. They hooked these two items up together, then they came in here and pinched this end to cause it to pressurize and hold the clamp on. Now I'm assuming, and I'm not too sure on these because I don't get a lot of these, I've worked on a few Mercedes that have a similar design on the airbox where they're made to, you come in here with a flathead, you unhook it, and when you unhook it, they open up, you can remove the hose, change out your filter, and then when it comes back to reassembly, they just go back on just like that. You hook them into place. Now for a cooling system, I don't know if this was meant to be reused or not, because when I took it off, first initially I thought it wasn't going to be unhookable or reusable. So I was a little bit deterred, and then after inspecting it a little bit, I figured out that I can just put a screwdriver on this end and basically unlatch it. So what I did, just to kind of show you guys here, was I came in, it was hooked up with a flathead, and I got up underneath there. Now it's hard to do because this isn't stable, but when I lift it up on that portion, let me unhook it here, see if I can get this to open up again, because this is how idiotic these things are. I absolutely hate this design. So now I've hooked it and it won't unhook. So let me go back to the bench here with it and see if I can just get it. There you go. So when I unhooked it, it opened up like this. Now I could have easily hooked it back on like I said, but I was a little worried because typically when I see this on there, it's a pinch style clamp, and that means that once it's pinched, it has a certain force, and once you open it up, it may not have the same force again. So I couldn't find any info on it. As much as I was thinking I had to reuse it, what I did was I just said, screw it, in the trash. And in place of it, I went and I grabbed one of these and was able to put it on there, tie it up, didn't have an issue. And for me, this is just absolute overkill. Thermostat is a very serviceable item. You will be replacing it. And sadly, on these Chrysler 3.6, 3.2 liter Pentastar motors, you're going to be replacing it quite often. So why would Dodge go crazy and put this design on there? Now, for me, it's just baffling. I'm pretty sure they sell this clamp at a pure premium at the dealership where you can buy one that hasn't been compressed or pinched here yet. But for a DIYer or some mechanic that isn't a dealer trained technician that sees this car every day, that has a knowledge of these things, this is a really crappy way to go. Why reinvent the wheel when the wheel is fine? That's how I feel about this. These clamps work fine. Spring clamps work just fine. Why would you have to concoct this thing? If they used a regular design where it didn't have the hook, where it was just a one-time use clamp and then you cut it off, okay, I can maybe give them a pass. Those have been around as long as the worm gear clamps and the spring clamps. But to go and invent something in between those two, I mean, it's absolute absurdity. This is a major fail, and this is just one way that manufacturers are trying to screw with people so they don't work on their own vehicles. That's how I'm going to take it. So for me, I took this off. It's trash. I just saved it for the video, and in place we put one of these clamps on there, and the car is rolling around just fine without it. So now that you guys have seen the clamp and I've kind of shared my thoughts on why I think they're doing this, if you run into this at a particular point in time in your career, or if you're working on one, the best thing to do is just unhook these ends, take it and throw it away, replace it with a different clamp. This is just one way, like I mentioned earlier, manufacturers are scaring people and making them go to the dealer and either spend more money buying a fancy clamp that they don't need, because, you know, clearly as long as you don't over tighten any other clamp on there like crazy, which you'll know if you over tighten it, there's no need for this. Worm gear clamps work just fine. So it's another way for them to just line their pockets, take some more money from us, and try to scare people into taking it into the dealer for them to service it. But at the end of the day, most people are not going to fall for it, fortunately, and they'll just, you know, think outside the box and say, screw this clamp, throw it out, get a standard old clamp that always works. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Please comment, like, and subscribe because it definitely helps the channel grow. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.